A green card used to feel like safety. You got approved, you built your life in America, you worked hard, paid taxes, stayed out of trouble. And somewhere deep down you believed the hard part was over. You thought the fear was behind you. The interviews, the paperwork, the waiting, the stress. Done. Finished. You finally made it. But right now, all across the United States, green card holders are walking into airports, thinking they are coming home and finding themselves trapped in a nightmare they never saw coming. A guy leaves the country for 3 weeks to visit his sick mother overseas. He comes back expecting the usual routine. Passport, green card, fingerprint, welcome back. Instead, a CBP officer stares at the computer screen for a little too long and says the words nobody wants to hear. Step over here, sir. Suddenly he's sitting in a freezing cold secondary inspection room while officers question him like he's hiding something dangerous. How long were you gone? Where do you really live? Why were you outside the country? Who were you visiting? Why do your social media posts show you overseas so often? Then they ask for his phone. Not just his photos, everything. WhatsApp messages, emails, Facebook, Instagram, private chats, search history, deleted files. And while he's sitting there stressed out of his mind, exhausted from a 14-hour flight, they slide a paper across the table. Form I-407. Voluntary abandonment of permanent resident status. A fancy government phrase that basically means this. Sign here and give up your green card. That's the reality many immigrants are waking up to right now. And the scariest part is this. Most people still have no clue how serious this situation has become. Welcome back to Global Visa Ways. I'm Saqib, and today we're talking about what is really happening to green card holders at U.S. airports. Why border inspections are getting more aggressive, and the exact mistakes that can put your residency at risk faster than you think. And trust me, if you or someone you love has a green card, you need to hear every second of this. Because the system has changed, not quietly, not slowly, massively. A lot of immigrants still think traveling with a green card works the same way it did 10 years ago. They think if they stay out of trouble, everything's fine. That's not how border enforcement works anymore. Today, the government tracks more data than ever before. Every flight, every entry, every exit, every fingerprint, every face scan, every travel pattern. And if something about your case raises questions, even small questions, officers now have broad authority to stop you, question you, inspect your devices, and in some cases try to convince you to surrender your residency voluntarily. That word voluntarily is important. Because many green card holders don't realize something critical. A border officer cannot simply cancel your green card because he feels like it. That's not how the law works. But what officers can do is pressure people into signing paperwork they don't fully understand. And when fear kicks in, people make terrible decisions. Especially after a long international flight when they're tired, confused, scared, and just want to go home to their families. That's exactly what's happening. Now let's talk about why this is getting worse. Over the last few years, the government has dramatically expanded biometric tracking systems at airports and border checkpoints. Facial recognition technology is now everywhere. The second you enter or leave the country, your travel movement is being logged in real time. Years ago, immigration officers sometimes had incomplete travel records. Now they know almost everything instantly. How long you are outside the country, how often you travel, patterns in your trips. Whether your behavior suggests America is truly your permanent home. And that's the key issue right there. Permanent residence. A green card is not just permission to enter the United States. It's supposed to represent that America is your main home base. That's why long trips outside the country can become dangerous. A lot of immigrants make the mistake of thinking there's some magic number where everything is safe as long as they return before a certain date. But border officers don't only look at the calendar. They look at the full picture. Where do you work? Where does your family live? Where do your kids go to school? Where do you pay taxes? Do you own property overseas? Do you spend more time outside America than inside? All of those things matter. And once officers start questioning whether you truly live in the United States permanently, things can get ugly fast. That's where many people get blindsided. A guy can live in America for 20 years, take several long trips overseas to care for aging parents, and suddenly find himself being treated like he's trying to abandon his residency. And the emotional damage from that kind of experience is brutal. Guys who spent decades building a life here suddenly feel like the ground underneath them isn't stable anymore. Then there's the phone issue. This is the part that really freaks people out. A lot of travelers still don't realize that border officers can search electronic devices at ports of entry under broad border search authority. That means your phone can suddenly become an open book: messages, photos, group chats, emails, social media, private conversations you never expected anybody else to read. And here's where people get into trouble without even realizing it. Sometimes it's not criminal activity. Sometimes it's just context. A joke in a WhatsApp group. A message saying, "Man, I wish I could stay here longer." A conversation about business overseas. A political meme someone else posted in a group chat. Things that sound harmless in normal life can suddenly look suspicious when viewed through the lens of immigration enforcement. That's why immigration attorneys now constantly warn travelers to clean up unnecessary content before flying internationally. Because once your phone is in their hands, you lose control over how your information gets interpreted. And interpretation is everything. Now let's talk about the scariest document in this whole process. Form I-407. If you don't know what that is, listen carefully. This form is basically a legal surrender letter for your green card. When someone signs it, they are voluntarily giving up lawful permanent resident status. And according to many immigration lawyers, some green card holders are being heavily pressured to sign this form during secondary inspections. Officers may tell people things like, "It'll make this easier. You can apply again later. If you don't sign, you may be detained. We already know you abandoned your residency." And a lot of people panic, especially older immigrants. Especially people who don't speak strong English. Especially guys traveling alone who suddenly feel powerless, sitting in a government inspection room. But here's what many people don't understand. You generally have the right to refuse to sign that form. And if the government truly believes you abandoned your residency, they usually must pursue formal immigration proceedings where an immigration judge reviews the case. That's a huge difference. Because once somebody signs away their green card voluntarily, fixing that mistake becomes incredibly difficult. Some people don't realize what happened until they're already outside the airport holding paperwork that effectively erased decades of their life in America. That's why preparation matters now more than ever. If you're a green card holder, you cannot afford to travel blindly anymore. You need to understand how this system works before you get on that plane. And honestly, this entire situation reflects something bigger happening in America right now. Immigration enforcement has become more data-driven, more technology-focused, and more aggressive at the border. Officers today have tools previous generations never had. They can pull up travel history instantly. They can compare databases in seconds. They can analyze movement patterns. They can examine years of digital behavior sitting right there at the inspection counter. And when you combine powerful technology with broad discretionary authority, the result is more pressure on travelers than ever before. Now let me be clear about something important. Most green card holders still travel without problems. Millions of lawful permanent residents enter and leave the United States successfully every year. This video is not about spreading panic, it's about awareness. Because too many people still think permanent residency means absolute protection. It doesn't. A green card gives you strong legal rights, but it also comes with responsibilities. And one of the biggest responsibilities is proving that America remains your permanent home. That's why immigration attorneys constantly recommend maintaining strong ties to the United States. Keep filing taxes properly. Maintain a real U.S. address. Keep employment records. Maintain bank activity. Hold on to utility bills and lease agreements. Keep evidence showing your life is centered in America. Because if questions ever come up at the border, documentation can make a huge difference. And if you know you'll be outside the country for a long period, talk to an immigration attorney before leaving. Not after problems happen. Before. That one step alone can save people from life-changing mistakes. Another huge issue right now is misinformation online. Social media is packed with fear. One viral story spreads, and suddenly people believe every green card holder is about to get deported at the airport. That's not reality. But at the same time, pretending nothing is changing is also dangerous. The truth sits somewhere in the middle. Enforcement is getting tougher. Technology is becoming more invasive. Inspections are becoming more detailed. And green card holders absolutely need to be more careful than they were years ago. That's just the truth. A lot of immigrants sacrificed everything to get here. Some crossed oceans. Some worked 2 jobs for years. Some waited decades in visa backlogs. Some left behind family members they still miss every single day. So when people hear stories about lawful permanent residents getting detained at airports, it hits deep emotionally. Because for immigrants, residency is not just paperwork. It's identity, it's stability. It's the belief that after all the struggle, you finally belong somewhere. And the fear of losing that can mess with a person psychologically in a very real way. That's why knowledge matters. Preparation matters. Understanding your rights matters. And staying calm matters too. Because panic is exactly what creates bad decisions during border inspections. If an officer starts questioning you, stay respectful. Stay calm. Do not lie. Do not become aggressive. But also do not sign documents you do not understand just because you feel intimidated. That single moment can affect the rest of your life. And look, this conversation isn't only about airports. It's about the future of immigration enforcement in America. The government is moving toward more surveillance, more digital monitoring, and deeper scrutiny across the board. That trend is probably not slowing down anytime soon. Which means immigrants need to become smarter, more informed, and more prepared than ever before. You cannot rely on rumors from social media. You cannot rely on random advice from WhatsApp groups. And you definitely cannot assume that could never happen to me. Because the people who get blindsided are usually ordinary. People living ordinary lives. That's what makes these stories so terrifying. It's not gang members. It's not dangerous criminals. A lot of the time it's hardworking men who thought everything was fine until suddenly they were sitting in secondary inspection watching an officer scroll through their private life. That reality feels surreal until it happens to somebody you know. And trust me, inside immigrant communities, these stories spread fast. One guy gets detained at the airport and suddenly the entire community starts panicking. Families cancel trips. Parents become scared to travel. People stop visiting relatives overseas because they're afraid something could happen when they return. That fear is real. But fear without information is dangerous. That's why channels like this matter. Because immigrants deserve clarity, not propaganda, not clickbait panic. Real information, real explanations, real preparation. So if you take one thing away from this video, let it be this. Your green card is valuable, but it is not untouchable. Protect it. Take travel seriously. Understand your rights. And never assume border inspections are routine anymore. The system today is very different from what it used to be. And the immigrants who stay informed are the ones most likely to protect themselves successfully. If this video helped you understand what's really happening, subscribe right now to Global Visa Ways. This channel exists to break down immigration issues in plain English so real people can understand the risks, the rules, and the reality behind the headlines. Hit the bell notification because these updates matter now more than ever. And share this video with every green card holder, you know, your father, your brother, your uncle, your friend from work. Anybody who travels internationally with permanent resident status needs this information before their next flight. Because the worst feeling in the world is walking into a situation completely unprepared. Stay safe, stay informed, protect your future, and I'll see you in the next video.